Hola y bienvenidos al video using cognates and roots in Espanol. You may be wondering what a cognate is. After all, it's not a word that we listen or that we hear a lot in the English language, but it's actually a really useful word when you're learning a foreign language, because a cognate is a word in Spanish or any foreign language that looks like and sounds like a word in English and then has that same meaning. So there are plenty of cognates in the Spanish language, and we're going to take a look at three. Our first cognate is chocolate. I think you can probably figure out what that word means since it's spelled exactly the same as its English counterpart, chocolate, only the pronunciation is different. Another cognate is popular. Popular looks exactly like its cognate, popular, and of course it does mean it popular. Our last cognate doesn't look exactly like its English counterpart, but it's very close. It's usar. Usar starts with US and it ends with AR, so that tells me right there it's an infinitive and it's a verb. And I know a verb that starts with US in English and it looks a lot like usar, and that's the verb use, or our infinitive, to use. You have to watch out though, because there are such things as false cognates. False cognates are words in Spanish that look like a word in English, but they don't actually have the same meaning. There are fewer false cognates than there are cognates, but when you find one, you really need to pay attention and make sure that you don't make that mistake of thinking that it's the same word. The first example that we have is la carpeta. You probably remember from our previous chapter that la carpeta does not mean carpet. It actually means folder. It's easy to fall in the trap of thinking that it means carpet. Another false cognate is actual. Actual looks and is spelled exactly like the English word actual, but in reality it doesn't mean actual, it means current. So we have to be careful with that one. A final false cognate that we know is la carta. La carta looks like cart, but it isn't. It's a letter. So we have to be careful with those false cognates. Once you discover a false cognate, you need to be making sure that you're paying attention and you're remembering and memorizing the real definition. Another way to tell if it's a false cognate is when you're reading or listening to somebody talk. If the English word makes no sense, it's probably a false cognate. We can also use root words that we know in English in order to figure out unknown words in Spanish when we're reading or listening. Spanish is based off of the extinct language Latin. So is English to some extent. English kind of mixes. But there's Latin roots in both English and Spanish, and if you know those Latin roots, they can help you figure out what the word means in English. For example, we have the word la biblioteca. Now, I don't know what a biblioteca is, but if I look at it, I have the root biblio. Biblio exists in English, and it reminds me of something I know of in English, and that's a book, because a bibliophile is somebody who loves books. And biblioteca actually has to do with books because it means library. So sometimes those roots can really kind of help you figure out what the word means. Another example is repasar. Re we know means again because we have that same root, re, in English. And pasar I know means like to spend, because pasar tiempo con mis amigos means to spend time with my friends. So it looks a little bit like it's spending some time redoing something. And that's kind of what it means. It means to review. So knowing that re means to do again can help me figure out that repasar means to review. And finally, we have telecontrol. Well, tele. Well, I know some other words in English that have tele, like telephone and television. And control is a cognate because it's the word control. So telephone control, well, that doesn't make much sense. But television control, that sounds like it could be pretty familiar. And that's exactly what it is. Telecontrol means remote control. So using my knowledge of roots and using my cognate told me what that word actually meant. Well, that's all we have for today. Tienen un buen día. Hasta mañana.